If you're a senior struggling with sleep, believe it or not, cannabis might be the answer you're looking for. But there's a lot to know about cannabis and cannabis-derived products. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Michael Breus, the Sleep Doctor. Before we talk about cannabis's positive effects on sleep, I want to pull back a bit and talk about cannabis in general, since there's a lot of misinformation out there and we're learning new things about it literally every day. Cannabis has been used by humans for thousands of years, cultivated for the plant's fibers as well as for oil, food, and its medicinal qualities. As of today, cannabis is now legal in 39 out of 50 states for medicinal use and 24 states for recreational use. Just to clarify, it is legal at the state level, not at the federal level. However, you're not going to get arrested if you go and buy some cannabis from your local dispensary. Cannabis has increased in popularity as a treatment option for a variety of health issues, including pain, nausea, ALS, glaucoma, anxiety, depression, and yes, sleep. You may have heard it's not addictive, but that only means it's not physically addictive. You can become psychologically dependent upon it. Heavy use can also lead to problems with memory, cognition, and your learning abilities. However, if you use it safely and in moderation, it poses very low health risks to you. That being said, I strongly advise against smoking cannabis. Quite frankly, smoking anything is bad for your body, especially your lungs, and cannabis is no exception. Of the various methods of administration, I vastly prefer edibles and tinctures, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. It turns out there are a number of different chemical compounds in cannabis called constituents that can have an effect on you. The big one you've heard of is called THC. THC is the primary psychoactive cannabinoid in the cannabis plant, meaning that it affects the mind and causes intoxication or that sort of feeling of being high. THC essentially slows down communication between the cells in the nervous system. This can result in an intense relaxation, coupled with feelings of euphoria and an altered perception of time, color, and space. People essentially feel weightless and sort of uninhibited. In addition, the data suggests that the use of THC will increase your heart rate and decrease REM sleep. This can be problematic for people who have high blood pressure and memory issues. So remember, you need to check with your doctor before attempting to use THC for sleep. There's also something we're learning a lot more about called CBD. CBD is another cannabinoid found in the cannabis plant. Although CBD affects the brain, CBD is not intoxicating. It won't make you feel high. I want to double tap on that because it's important to know CBD does not make you feel high. CBD has anti-inflammatory properties that help reduce anxiety, reduce pain, and promote both mental focus and clarity. However, CBD has not been shown in the research to actually do anything for sleep. Unless, of course, your sleepiness is caused by anxiety or inflammation, then CBD can help you sleep by removing those issues, preventing sleep. But just to note, because there is a lot of confusion out there, CBD does not directly impact your sleep. Before I go any further, if you like this type of sleep content, please do me a big favor and give the video a like and subscribe to the channel below. It really means a lot to us here at Sleep Doctor, and your support allows me to keep making this kind of content for you in the future. Also, if you're consistently waking up tired as you get older or feeling overly groggy during the day, it might be worth getting screened for sleep apnea, especially if you snore. It's way more common than you think, and unfortunately, 4 out of 5 people with sleep apnea don't even know that they have it. The good news is that there's a whole host of treatment options that can make a dramatic improvement on not just your sleep, but your overall health. Another piece of good news, you don't need to go to a sleep lab or see a sleep specialist to get screened for it. There are now these high-quality home sleep tests that allow you to test yourself from the comfort of your own bed, and you can get your results back within a couple of days. If you've consistently struggled with your sleep and can't seem to do anything about it, click the link in the description and order a home sleep test. Now, if you're a senior watching this, listen up. CBN is the lesser-known cannabinoid believed to produce sedative effects, which are typically enhanced when combined with THC. While CBN has been studied less than both CBD and THC, some exciting research suggests it lowers your arousal threshold, which means you don't wake up as much during the night. So if you're an older person struggling with sleep, you could see how cannabis could be one possible solution you might be looking for. THC can help make you feel relaxed and unwind. CBD can help alleviate your aches, pains, and potentially your anxiety, and CBN can help reduce arousals and awakenings throughout the night. Cannabis can also be a healthier alternative to some of the other sleep aids on the market, particularly those used most often by seniors. Specifically here, I'm talking about diphenhydramine, which is commonly found as Benadryl. Many of my older patients would often tell me that they would use these to help them sleep. However, a report published in the Journal of American Medical Association suggests that there is a link between diphenhydramine and the development of dementia. In fact, using diphenhydramine for the equivalent of 3 years or more was associated with a 54% higher risk for dementia. Why is that? We don't actually know for sure, but here's what we do know. Anticholinergics affect the activity of neurotransmitters. These are chemical messengers that work in the central nervous system. Specifically, anticholinergic drugs block the action of something called acetylcholine. In the brain, acetylcholine is involved in learning and memory. So I tell all of my patients, stop using diphenhydramine for sleep. And if you need a replacement, consider a combination of a low amount of THC and a slightly higher amount of CBD and CBN instead, if it's legal in your state and you've cleared it with your doctor. Another way I think cannabis can really help with your sleep is as a replacement for alcohol. I don't know if you know this, but alcohol is the #1 sleep aid used in the world, and alcohol is terrible for your sleep. While it may help you fall asleep, it can severely fragment your sleep, leading to restlessness and waking up in the middle of the night to pee. However, if you replace alcohol with cannabis, not only will you benefit from some of the similar sleep-inducing effects, you also won't suffer from sleep-disrupting effects of alcohol. But here's the caveat. Cannabis today is not the same as cannabis from the 70s. It's far more powerful, which means it's very easy for someone who's inexperienced to get stoned versus using it strictly for its medicinal properties. Okay, so you're interested in using cannabis for sleep. Where do you begin? First, talk with your doctor. As I mentioned earlier, cannabis is generally safe substance to consumers. However, it can interact with some medications, so it's best to speak with a medical professional. I'll admit, if you've never used cannabis before or haven't used it since the 70s, it can be a little overwhelming. Don't worry though, it's a lot simpler than you think. First, you need to know where to buy it. If you live in a state where it's legal, you can go to a dispensary. If cannabis still remains illegal in your state, don't worry because you can actually purchase CBN in many states. Remember, CBN works best in conjunction with THC, but even without THC, it's still going to help you sleep. CBN and CBD, for that matter, can be purchased at a number of vitamin supplement stores or pharmacies. It can also be purchased online. If you're going to the dispensary, here's what you need to know. Number 1, bring your ID and bring cash. Remember, cannabis is not federally legal, so many places still require cash to buy it. When you first walk in, you might be overwhelmed by the sheer number of options available. If you need help, the people that work at the dispensaries are usually some of the nicest and most helpful people around, so they'll gladly walk you through the options for you. But all you really need to focus in on are gummies, tinctures, or edibles. I recommend getting the ones that come in 1 milligram. Read the label. State guidelines require that contents of cannabis products be listed on the label, like the nutrition information that you see on the side of the box of food. This is a great way to know how much THC, CBD, and specifically CBN is in the product that you're looking at. Also, I recommend getting a CBD-only vape pen. I'll explain why in just a second. Now, you've got your cannabis. My guess is you're probably a little nervous about using it. After all, it's probably been a while since you've used it, or maybe you've never used it at all, and you've probably heard cannabis is much stronger nowadays than it used to be. Remember, all you need to do is go low and slow. Start with a very low dose of THC just to introduce it into the system. That's why I suggest getting 1 milligram edibles. You can even break them in half if you want, or just bite off a small corner. Remember, there's really no amount that's too low to begin with. You can also consider doing it during the daytime while maybe someone is around, like your spouse. If you take an edible, starting about 30 to 45 minutes later, you'll start to gradually feel the effects. You'll notice a mild euphoria and increase in sensory things like sound or taste. If you're using a vape, the effects will actually be felt a lot more quickly, usually in about 5 minutes. As your body gets used to it, you can slowly increase the amounts. I recommend no matter what amount you take in whatever form, edibles or vape, you wait at least 60 to 90 minutes before taking any more. That's the amount of time for it to fully kick in. What you don't want to do is take a second dose too quickly. Some of my patients, they take an edible, 30 minutes later, they don't feel high, so they take a second dose. Guess what happens? They get too high, or what I call greening out. Speaking of, if you start to feel a little too high or uncomfortable, that's what the CBD vape is for. CBD is really good at neutralizing some of the intense effects of THC. If you're feeling too high, a little bit of CBD is going to help calm you down and make you feel a lot better. Most likely though, if you go low and slow, you'll have nothing but a pleasant experience. Now, in order to get the most sleep-inducing benefits of cannabis, I recommend consuming it about 2 hours before bedtime. This will allow it to kick in so you start feeling the positive effects, but just enough time for some of the euphoria to wear off. You don't want to go to bed feeling too good. Trust me on this one. Play around with the right amounts and the timing. All right, That's it for this one, everybody. If you struggle with falling back asleep in the middle of the night, do me a favor, go check out my video right here. And if you have any questions, I actually want to hear from you. Please put your questions down in the comments below. This is Dr. Michael Breus, the Sleep Doctor, wishing you sweet dreams.